So welcome again. Now the important tract that is remaining ascending tract is the fasciculus gracilis and the fasciculus cuneatus. Why this is called as the fasciculus? Because it is present in the white matter of the spinal cord. Here you can see this tract is going to start from this nucleus fasciculus and nucleus gracilis in the white matter of the brain. And we have discussed that in the white matter of the spinal cord, these areas are called as the fasciculus as compared to the lateral or the medial areas. So the nucleus fasciculus and the nucleus cuneatus are located in the posterior white column. So starting from the point of the sensation that carried through the fasciculus cuneatus and gracilis pathway is the vibration, proprioception and 2-point discrimination. We should remember all the sensation and all the pathways that are carried through the ascending tracts. Now the pathway is very simple. Again, it is synapsing in the anterior. This is the difference, that it's synapsing in the anterior gray column of the spinal cord. After the synapsing with the second order neuron, that can be internmental neuron or the motor neuron. This pathway is going to pass from the posterior limb of the gray column, then in the posterior limb of the white column or the nucleus fasciculus or the nucleus cuneatus, and it go upward in the lower medulla, in the upper medulla. But here you can see one more thing, that there is no crossing of the axons of this first order neuron. They are going towards the same side upward till the level of the upper part of the pons. At the level of the pons and the upper part of the medulla oblongata, these fibers will going to cross and these fibers are going to decussate at the level of upper part of medulla. Actually, the decussation is a word used for crossing. These axons that when crossed in the upper part of medulla at the level of internal arcuate fibers, at the level of pyramids, that will be going to discuss in the external features of the medulla. At that level, these fibers cross towards the opposite side and then they continue at that side, and after that side continuation, they will go to relay at the third order neuron, which will synapse in the same thalamus, and then it will going to pass to the internal capsule and ultimately into the cortex it will going to terminate. So similarly, in the fasciculus gracilis and the fasciculus cuneatus, also called as the posterior white column pathway, this is a similar explanation as compared to the spinothalamic pathway, but the difference is that there is the decussation at the level of pons and the upper part of the medulla, and also the sensation carried are different. But one more thing, that these are the fibers that are present and they're terminating all the cortex, cerebral cortex. Now we are going to discuss that fibers that terminate and that pathways that are present in the cerebellum and that carry the information from the spinal cord towards the cerebellum. So here in this diagram, these are the two posterior and the anterior spinocerebellar tracts that will going to pass the information that is related with the unconscious muscle joint sense or the movements of the muscle and the tendon that include the muscle spindle and the Golgi tendon organ. In that pathways, this is the sensation that start from the first order neuron and it will going to synapse with the second order neuron at the level of the anterior gray column of the spinal cord. Here it is shown in the zoom diagram that at the posterior gray column, where there is a presence of a nucleus dorsalis. This will going to present in the posterior gray column. Only the posterior fasciculus pathways will going to end in the anterior gray column, while that of the spinothalamic and the spinocerebellar pathway all will going to converge their first order neuron in the posterior gray column. In the posterior gray column, it synapses with the nucleus dorsalis or the Clark nucleus that we have discussed in the external features of the spinal cord. Then after synapsing with the Clark nucleus, these axons will going to converge at the second order neuron, and this second order neuron will continue at the same site at the level of the brainstem, will going to at the pons, medulla, midbrain, and then it will going to terminate passing from the inferior cerebellar peduncle and it will going to terminate at the cerebellum, at the same side of cerebellum. So it's a very simple pathway, that the posterior spinocerebellar pathway run on the same side and terminate at the inferior cerebellar peduncle and carry the unconscious muscle joint sense. Now the anterior spinocerebellar pathway. The anterior spinocerebellar pathway is somewhat different in a sense that it starts from the same side, that the first order neuron will going to synapse in the nucleus dorsalis or the Clark nucleus, and after that the axons of the second order neuron will going to cross the opposite side, and it will going to cross the opposite side and continue upward at the anterior spinocerebellar tract, and at the level of the brain stem. After converging the brain stem, it will going to enter from the superior cerebellum peduncle in the cerebellum. When it is enter at the cerebellum, it will going to again cross from the middle cerebral peduncle, and then it will enter from the middle cerebral peduncle of the opposite side, and it end and terminate at the cerebellum. So here you can see that this anterior spinocerebellar pathway is converging from the right side. If this is the right side, then it's converging from the right side, and again after 2 times crossing or decussating, they will again come back at that same side. So because there's a rule we have discussed in the initiation of this video, that there's a rule in the cerebellum that the fibers should converge on the same side of body, because it conduct the pathway of the same track. Because on the same side of cerebellum, the function and the motor pathway will converge on the same side, and there will be a reaction of the same side of the body. That's why, because this anterior spinocerebellar pathway have crossed towards the opposite side, so it has to come again towards the same side. And this will also carry the sensation that is concerned with the unconscious muscle joint sense. Now the last major ascending tract that is remaining is the cunocerebellar tract. It is related with the nucleus cuneatus. It starts from the posterior white column from the nucleus cuneatus, where the synapse of the second order neuron, and from the nucleus cuneatus it will go towards the same side of the body and continue as the fasciculus gracilis or cunocerebellar tract, and it will going to terminate at the level of cerebellum and from the passing from the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So simply it starts from the nucleus cuneatus and ends at the cerebellum. We will going to discuss these peduncles in a separate video of the cerebellum. So here it carry the discriminative touch, vibratory sense, and conscious muscle joint sense through this cunocerebellar pathway. There is a small ascending pathway. So this was an explanation about all the ascending tracks. Thank you for watching my video.